You are live. We are live here in the Circle Leadership Headquarters studios. Well, at least half of us are. The other half, Suzanne Waldron, she is over in Sydney. So we're going live, and today we're going to be talking about Our Culture's Invincible. I'm really excited about that. But before we do that, I want to actually introduce Suzanne very briefly. I'll let you introduce yourself a bit more. But I remember the first time we met. And the very first time we met, I'm like, this woman is amazing. So we met, it would have been about 2016, I think. It was the Unconvention Entourage. We're throwing one in Perth. And I'd taken my daughter Jordan along to the event because she was working on a little project that she had going at the time, which she still has there, but then she's done some great stuff with it. But we're just there to learn from other entrepreneurs so she didn't have to listen to dad all the time. And met this wonderful lady, Suzanne, there. And we're just sharing with what Jordan was working on. And without even knowing us at all, you said, I would be happy to be her mentor if she's looking for one.
And I remember that so clearly. I remember exactly where we were in the convention center as well.
Yeah. And I'm like, who does that? Suzanne does that. And then from there, obviously we've met at a few other events, stuff like that. Then obviously our networking socials circles with Sheil and Andy. And then I got to attend a couple of at least one of the workshops that you and Andy had run, the incomparable, crazy, and insane Andy Lamb, which was great to see you two with the work that you're doing in that space. And I've always just loved everything that you do. And I love your approach to it because it's totally different to mine, which is awesome.
Yeah, we compliment well.
In a complimentary way. I like that. And and it's just, so this is actually, I think this is the first time we've actually ever done something together now, isn't it?
Other than had really good conversations and all margaritas.
Rich conversations and a few beverages here and there. But Suzanne has also written this beautiful book, Sleeping Giants, and I'm very happy for you to talk about that. An invitation for deep thought and philosophy for liberation. So it's kind of like we're going to have a somewhat that kind of conversation around organizational culture today. But great book, and people can get this online, can they? Or that is on your website where they can access it?
Yep, all those places.
Okay.
Book.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. Artwork's amazing too. And if you ask nicely, Suzanne may even autograph it for you.
Always.
All right. So, Suzanne, I will hand over to you just to give a little bit more of your background about who you are and the work that you do in this world. And then we're going to jump into that really hot topic that by the way, this live stream came about from, it was a post you put up on LinkedIn, I think, was it not?
Yes.
And then I commented on it.
So many things.
Yeah. Well, one of us put a post on LinkedIn and we started this beautiful dialogue and, I loved it because it was challenging. Like we weren't necessarily challenging each other per se, but challenging the concept and the context of the conversation. And it just then I made I want to say the mistake, but threw it out there. I said, made the offer. We should go live about this. And then here we are today going live. So a conversation that we're going to continue from a LinkedIn post. We're continuing live here. So, but I will hand over to Suzanne. Just give us a little bit more of a background of yourself so people get to understand more about you and who you are and why you are so amazing.
Oh, bless you. And Dave, thank you so much for inviting me into a conversation. I love our conversations. Do you know why I love them so much? Is because they're so real. Like you and I don't always agree on things and we're not shy in saying so, but our connection with each other supersedes everything else. So you and I can go into a challenging conversation and then go and have so much fun straight after somewhere else. I really love that. And I think we need more of that in the world because that gives us an opportunity to challenge and grow our thinking. So thank you. And Jordan, she was 14. I remember.
Yeah, she was at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the only 14-year-old in that space. It was amazing. I am so thrilled to be here to talk about this. I'm obsessed with humanity. I don't like all humans, but I love humanity. And it's a good distinction, I think, because the human race is a beautiful and special gift that we have access to as being a human ourselves. But I'm really more interested these days in how we live inside the systems and the governance of the world, the economics, both fiscally, but also socially, economically, and also culturally. And so I get quite obsessed, if you like, around ethics and fairness, and trying so much often to understand why some people have more than others. And it's not about more as in more cars, more houses, things like that. It's like, why do some people have more access versus other people? And that's the work that I do. So I'm often thinking about how can I help people who are in extreme poverty or extreme minorities, and help understand how to link people who aren't with people who are, and vice versa, and then have conversations that create more fairness. And I just love it. And I believe in people. I really do. I really believe in humans, and I really enjoy deeply helping bring a sense of rightness to someone's own identity, to themselves, so that they can be, fully in this world. I'll
That's
stop there.
beautiful. No, that's a lovely thing. So why you have a title there, behavioralist?
Mm.
So can you explain or just expand on that, why you refer to yourself as a behavioralist?
Yeah, well, basically, I look at the way we act in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So my calls are all behavioural sciences, and so I've studied that for ages. And then I started studying philosophy and economics, which is hilarious. I didn't get any degrees in that. I didn't get any further. I'm a casual educated, like to do short courses and things like that. But yeah, my behavioural calls, I've got a master's degree in that. So yeah, so that's why I'm called that.
All right. So
Not a
philosophy and
psychologist.
economics.
Yeah, not a psychologist, although a lot of my work stems from, I was a crisis counsellor for Lifeline, and all sorts of
Oh,
different
wow.
therapies, like years and years and years back. Yeah. So it just evolved more into a behaviouralist, because I'm not a therapist anymore. I more look at humanity in the context of how the world works.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love the, I love humanity, but I don't like all the humans. Right?
No, I don't like everyone.
No, I don't like everyone. There's some, yeah. Yeah, and I love, I love that, and the whole concept of philosophy and economics. Wouldn't it be amazing if we thought differently about economics?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
My current
Yeah.
love to think
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
All right. So, our culture's really invincible, he says with a defensive stance.
She says, with an inquiring curiosity back to you, I would love to understand. So I don't have a position of right or wrong here. I just want to say
Right.
this. What I would love to unpack with you is the
Yes.
notion of the words and the intent of the meaning of invincible. So that's what I think I first, in our conversation online when we were typing, was like,
Yeah.
invincible, a great word to use, and what does it really mean, and what does it really intend? So I want to throw it back to you, if I might, and not in an annoying way, like answering a question with a question, but
Yeah.
what do you think we're actually trying to solve with
Classic
that word?
facilitator 101, never answer a question. Redirect.
Politician in the making.
Yeah. So yeah, like I guess I want to talk. Forgetting the actual word and its definition of it, but when I think about culture, like, so obviously the work I do in this world is about helping. First, I don't believe in the concept of company culture. I think it's just culture now. It's kind of, it's not like where people go to work and then all of a sudden they pick up company culture, then they do their work and they drop company culture and they go home. We don't live in that world anymore. It could have been in the past. And, hey, I'm an ambassador for the Global Company Culture Association. So this is part of the thing is that I think it's just part of, like, this whole work-life integration. People are working on the train on the way in. They're, staying up late at night. We have distributed working now. So there's no company culture anymore. It's just being part of a culture. And for me, when I talk about this whole, our culture is really invincible, I think from an organizational perspective, it's our ability to capture the spirit of our people. And that's when I talk about invincible, like, that's where the invincibility is. When you have all these amazing human beings rallying together for a common cause, tied to a mission to have an impact on the world, that's pretty invincible. And I'm talking about more so the strength of the culture, rather than it's like invincible and it's, our culture is better than your culture. It's our ability to capture the spirit of our people.
Yeah.
And, like, that's where the invincibility comes from. And
Yeah.
invincibility aligned to achieving the vision that we have. And once again, the Dave in me wants to go, like, I need to explain things, right? Because most people think vision is, like, for example, I want to have, 20 circle leaderships all around the world. That's not a vision. A vision is the impact of you living your purpose through the lens of your values for 10, 20 years, whatever it is, the impact you're going to have on the world. What would be the impact of having 20 circle leaderships all around the world, serving all these people, doing all this? It's the impact of the work that we do every day. Purpose, why we come to work every day. Value is how we uniquely think about it, to create a world where, and so if when I speak about invincible culture, Suzanne, I'm talking about the capturing the spirit of the people to, that it's this strength and common bond that we have, and all here to create that world together. That's where invincible comes from.
So what do you think, if I may ask then, in terms of when we use words that have history? So I'm not talking about the origin here, because I know you and I talked about origin, and I loved our go at looking at the origin of words rather than definition. But if in cultures we use words and they have a general understanding or meaning, regardless of what the dictionary says.
Yep.
I've noticed a lot recently that people are using quite military version words, like invincible or conquer or smash it, or I'm gonna, whatever the words are that people are using that are quite aggressive in historical ways.
Yes.
What do you think about using these sorts of words, even though the intent of invincible, when you describe it that way, is really inspiring and quite warming? But immediately my attachment to the word is more like there's no room for movement, there's no room for change, there's no room for anything other than march to the death.
Right.
Where do you feel the historic notion of words fit in today's society?
Well, I think it's a bit lost, the historic notion, but also I get. So for me, I'm challenged by words too. But I might err on the other side, whereas I think that when people like discipline, we need to discipline. That can be seen as a real negative connotation to the word discipline. But discipline means training, and discipline is the key to freedom. And but when you say those words, it does create this whole ooh. And you used one word that makes me go ugh every time I hear it, and that was change. When we talk about having change management in organizations, if I throw that back to you and go, Suzanne, we're going to implement a change management program. What do you think the mindset of the people is going to be in that room? There's 50 people in the room. Hey, we're going to implement a change management program. So words have power. We can go into the whole debate about what that would create, but it usually creates a negative connotation, right? So I guess that's what we're saying. And there are some words that are, let's call it. I'll just use it. I'll just speak what's on my mind. Right? It's very masculine.
Yeah.
Masculine words. The whole military concept of things is very masculine. And that masculine energy has been significant in the world of business for a long period of time. And this is what I wrote about when in the Women Leading More Now book. What my chapter was about, actually, I think women or feminine is we need more of that in leadership and business today. And not that it needs to be more than that, but we need a better balance of the both.
An addition.
Masculine words. I'm not sure if that's where you're coming from, but to me, that's what I get from it. Is there's just too, and a lot of people today, as the generations have shifted as well, we have to be mindful, who are our future team members of our organizations? Who are those humans that are going to be, we want to capture the spirit of? Back in the days, it was, okay, well, yeah, you could have all those military masculine type words, but the world's not like that anymore.
It's also where it's all come from, isn't it? The way evolution happens, and we've come from a very sort of process oriented place from era, and then coming into the sort of more fourth revolution, fifth revolution of where we are now. And there were times and places that we become more efficiency focused, more productivity focused. The world was designed obviously for manufacturing and trading in terms of capitalism, and all of that was well intended, but it set up quite a binary experience for a certain level of people who had access to that way of life and way of being. And so we've got the nature versus nurture question being also that, when we talk about gender, or we talk about the way the world is designed, and what the world decided to design for certain types of people in different places. And now we're coming into I think a place where that emphasis and addiction to productivity and efficiency, which was once had a different intention, which was to put the power in the hands of the people rather than sovereignty. Now that we've gone into this commercialization and materialistic and consumerism sort of approach to things, where everything is like measured to the nth degree on profitability or productivity, I think we've tired ourselves out. And we've lost the aspect of what it's really like to, like, why are we living? Like, what is the point of living? We're going to need wine shortly in this conversation. But why are we living?
And then saying there's not wine in this cup already.
I should not assume these things. My apologies for being so naive. But it's a natural pendulum swing to the point where we get to this stage now where we think, well, we've just tired ourselves out with forgetting what we're here for and what's possible for us and what our natural rhythms and needs are as humans as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is fascinating, because if you look at the let's say the mantras of the generations. So going back to the baby boomers, it was work to live. So we had to work so we could live. And then Gen Xers like myself would be, work-life balance, right? And to the Gen Ys and people like yourself now, you guys would be work-life integration, right? Which is fascinating to me when you look at that. And then what does that then create? Well, so if we're looking at work and life, so work is, I believe that, work is what contributes to part of our sense of meaning, the work that we get to do in this world. Not sort of like the job, but the work we get to do in this
contribution. World. I mean, it could be like a contribution, is it? The exchange that we have.
My work in this world, like, it brings some sense of meaning to my lives. So like one of my simple clarisms is that, everybody wants their lives to be more meaningful. So it's our role as purpose-driven leaders to help give them work that is meaningful, full of meaning.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want people to have the sense of meaning to the work that they're doing. But if you look at that shift in the generations and stuff like that that's happening, I'm a big fan of work-life harmony and rhythm. I don't like, or just a harmony or rhythm to my life. I'm not like work-life balance is saying, and I've had this conversation with people, is saying, I want 8 hours of work, 8 hours of fun, and 8 hours of sleep. If it doesn't, that's not balance. I mean, if it's not that, it's not balance, right? Because balance is equal. It's balanced. Whereas my life is a symphony of, high, like, crescendos and peaks, and then quiet parts, and, the dramatic, and then it's exciting, and it's,
exactly.
The flight of the butterfly, and it's this, imagine this orchestra playing. That's what life, the tapestry of life is.
And this is where I think we've really overlooked rhythms and cycles, because we've got into a place of efficiencies and productivity, which is assuming we have to do things in these ways. And it's like a flat line approach of 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. And we've set up a society that does that in many countries. But if you think about our own rhythms of nature, the rhythms of our own needs, and often a long time ago, I used to teach, sort of emotional intelligence and this, different sections of your life. There was about 8 different chapters of your life that you needed to look at. I mean, people used to say there needed to be a balanced wheel. And I was like, oh, that's not what it needs to be. It needs to be a wonky wheel, because there are areas where we want to put more attention to, which means we take or draw from one place to give to another. And then also sometimes then we might bring that back because we've neglected our family or our health, or we've really focused on our education, but then we haven't got any money, so we need to do some work. And so it's about where are we using the strings to pull all of these different places. But unfortunately, I think I'm going to go in a different way. Fortunately, I think this next generation is a lot more socially impact oriented, and they understand that the social impact requires the humanity inside of that impact to be at its most healthy and wholesome. And so we're less likely to be delineated and siloed, and much more integrated, like you say, to be able to then provide culture. And I love that you said, it's not just about the company culture, it is just about culture. And I wrote down uniform when you said that, because if you look at the word uniform, like it's uniform, one form, one way. And we are breaking those patterns now, knowing that it just stifles people, makes them apathetic. in a lot of ways. So I feel very hopeful about this generation now. I've spent a lot of time, you would have too, because of the age of Jordan and the children that you have. But around the 20s, I've spent quite a lot of time with a lot of 20-year-olds recently. And my goodness, I think it is a very hopeful thing. The inclusivity and the respect for difference, I think, will allow these rhythms and these cycles of the natural element of humanity to come back into, I would say, the natural order of the way we're supposed to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you imagine if we made organizations as amazing as the human beings in them?
Yeah, and they should be. But
Well,
if you think of what an organization is a collection of people. That's it. Like if you
yeah,
take people out of the building just stands there. And so this is where we get the group mentality and the group thing. Collection of individuals makes something. This is where culture becomes something, because a
yeah,
culture is something that's a collection of many things.
yeah. So, which is really cool. So and this is why I guess the work that we do at Circle Leadership and the way that we do things is first thing we ever show people is the process for human behavior. This is how people got to be who they are, and here's how you help them become the best version of themselves, do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. And then what we crafted, and this is why I guess I'm not saying like I stand like in defense of, but I have a conviction around the words and the way that I express things, is because of what I did many years ago is I took, okay, if that's a process for human behavior, what if we could create a process for organizational behavior that mirrored human behavior, so that, because to your point, organizations are just a bunch of human beings all working together for a common good or whatever, right? And so our process we work with is actually aligned exactly the same as human behavior. And this is why we do purpose, the way we do it, values, vision, mission, and things like the way we do them, because it aligns with human behavior. So we can actually create organizations that make sense to us as human beings, which is also why our circle of organizational leadership, we have an ecosystem of leadership, not an ecosystem of leadership in organizations.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, well, that's what we refer to what we build as all-around leadership, not top-down
Oh,
leadership.
that's really cool.
Yeah, well, yeah. So when you think about building an organization and capturing the spirit of your people with that sense of invincibility, that strength, it comes from actually removing top-down leadership and having all-around leadership. Where imagine a culture where everybody lifted everybody up, not trying to pull people up, where everyone was lifting each other up, and where everybody answered to something first, not to someone. And
Absolutely.
through that, and we have an ecosystem, not an ecosystem of leadership, because
And
the
this is
two
where,
are
yeah,
parallel.
I love this. And this is where I think what we need to change what we value to measure.
Yeah.
That English sentence did not occur correctly. But what I mean is we measure things that do not allow that to occur. And so I wrote an article recently about this, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be measuring productivity or the fiscal economic nature of a workplace, but we need to add in more value propositions or measurements that have more of a wide and a broad scoping effect on the fact that we can create more choice together and that we have more responsibility together.
Absolutely. And this, yeah, so this is awesome. So we are in violent agreement.
Yes, I know. It's so fabulous. I kind of thought we might be agreeing, but it was fun to get to the point.
But I like the violent agreement. I mean, it's a harsh word.
Jeez, I was going to step over that point just so not to make you wrong live, but
But yeah, like, so this is fascinating for me, because how do most organizations, talking about from a measurement point of view, what is the ultimate measurement that people build their strategy based on?
Money,
whether it's profitability, revenue, or whatever it might be, right? So when money is your end game, you'll play any game.
Yeah, exactly right.
And this is why when we think about your strategy should be built off of the business or the organization we must become to evolve and stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that we choose to serve. Our organization exists to be of service to a group of people for a particular reason that we're passionate about doing. And so our mission, masculine term, to evolve us, should be then the strategy should be to become that organization where financially, if we look at the way we measure organizations, that should become an input, not the output.
Yeah.
Yes, like, money to A business is like oxygen to us as human beings. We need it
Yeah.
to survive, but we weren't born just to breathe.
Absolutely. And so it has its place, but it's not the only place.
Correct.
So what would you say then, if you were to say what's the biggest barrier or what's the biggest thing that an organization could be doing, because this is your bread and butter,
Yeah.
to sort of circumvent the familiarity and the pull of the slipstream of profit and profitability and productivity? Like, where, because you can't throw the baby out with the
No.
bathwater and it will just work well. Well, you might, but it's probably unlikely. So where do people start?
Right. So once again, for us, it starts with actually connecting actually culture and strategy. How do you create an alignment between culture and strategy? Because when we have a culture over here, it's how we think and feel, and it's all awesome. But the strategy is all tied to money, and nobody jumps out of bed in the morning and goes, "Woohoo! Can't wait to make the boss rich today." All right, and
Unless they're their own boss. I don't
well,
know.
yeah, well, even me though, I jump out of bed and said, "I can't wait to bring riches to the world and to our team and everything like that, to our clients." Right, but then on the other hand, also, is people don't go, "Oh, I can't wait to get to work and be a resource. I can't wait to be a meaning, a means to an end, a expendable commodity for this organization." Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a bit. All right.
Do it.
So, firstly, we've got to look at the way we appreciate human beings in our organization. The organization doesn't exist if the humans don't exist. All right. So when we look at that and go, okay, so we need to find a way to align the two. So for us, it's like if we understand why our business exists, how we think about the world we want to create, that impact, this is how we actually link culture and strategy so that culture doesn't have to eat strategy for breakfast and all these management theories. Is if we said, okay, if that's the impact we want to have in the next 10 years, and here we are today, Suzanne, who do we need to become in the next 3 years as an organization to start creating that world and bringing that world into reality? What would be the next evolution of our organization? And that's when we talk about our mission. So we've been able to label that. And I'm going to come around to this measurement here, because the strategy then is how do we become that organization? And then we would look at, here's what we should be measuring is, what's the team we must have? What is the humans, the people that we must have that are going to help us to build this amazing mission to fulfill this impact in the world? What is, our brand and how we think and feel as we speak that with love to the market? Well, how do we, how's the market and consumer going to think and feel about our organization? What's the type of clients that we must have? What is the finance? There's the money we must have. And what's the systems and operations? And you'll start to map out these objectives and then the measurements for those. But here's where it all comes into harmony. You have all of those, no one objective can work in isolation. If we don't have the right team, we're not going to have the right brand, because we're not speaking that with love to the market. Guess what? We won't have that. And then if we don't have the right brand, we won't attract the right clients. If we don't attract the right clients, we won't have the finances. We won't have the... But if you're only focused on the finance and trying to reverse engineer everything from the money, then all your measurements start from money.
Yeah.
Whereas you start from mission and saying, this is who we need to become. And we go, what are those things? And we can all of those work in concert with each other. We're measuring something totally different.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I heard someone the other day say that essentially what we need to do is because there's a likelihood that profitability will go down. It might not in that process, but there is a likelihood that profitability will go down because we're diluting the focus on it. But the thing is like, this is where I think we need to rearrange our priorities. Because when you look at reprioritizing other value measures in life, such as societal health, fairness, ethics, even criminal activity, and the way we feel and the way we live, I understand that we're built on a fiscal economic structure, but have you most likely have seen the different structures, like the donut economic theory that's come out a little while ago, that is just a beautiful way of not taking more than you need, and so that we don't get such extreme takes and extreme invert in the circle of the donut, because when we take more than we need, we take from other people. And so I think there's also got to be a massive shift in what we actually prioritize and what we have begun to believe is relevant in our society, and to actually lift up a notion of moral leadership, and to lift up the ethic nature of what we think about outside of just our own self, our own organization, and the reality of the ripple effect and the domino effect that we have on the impact, the consequential impact of the way that we behave, that does affect others, because we are a system and we are a collective consciousness. So I think in terms of what you're saying, and in addition to that, is also just reprioritizing what we actually think is important as the outcome as well as what we're measuring.
Yeah, and I love that. And this gets back to the whole concept of humanity. Uh, it's if we actually started looking at the impact we want to have on the world, and that rather than the impact on our bank balance,
Yeah.
I think your bank balance will take care of itself.
Yeah.
I'll give this real simple example. Our organization, we have our vision for the world. We see a world where every business thrives on purpose first, right? So can you imagine that, where every business has a clear sense of purpose, and everyone understands why I'm here, and I've got a personal connection to this, and I have a sense of meaningful work. It's all amazing. So from a measurement point of that, we want to create and inspire 90 million purpose-driven leaders, because there's about 900 million people who are disengaged in the workplace at a 1 to 10 ratio. That's about 90 million leaders who aren't very purpose-driven or understand the concept of purpose and the power it has in engaging people in something meaningful. So we've got some work to do. But if I look at that and I go from a financial perspective, and people go, oh, yeah, but what about the money? And I go, if I made $1 off of each of those 90 million, I'd do okay. So all I got to do is then go after, how do I help these 90 million people become purpose-driven leaders? What organizations can I speak to, talk to, help to get them to see the power and the benefit of this, so that and then we can help things. So if we come back to humanity, and this is the cool part, the way we think is we go, if you imagine 90 million people as leaders become purpose-driven, then 900 million people went home, feel a little bit better about themselves and the work they were doing in this world. Because most people go home, if they're disengaged at work, they're unhappy at work, they go home. Do you think that has a positive effect on their family, social, whatever life, or a negative impact? Usually slightly negative. But if they came home feeling a little bit better about themselves every day, Suzanne, we could shift the consciousness of the planet.
Yeah. And I hear you. And also, I also have another view in some ways. And so it's not that I disagree with that view at all. So I understand the principle of it. But there's something in me, and I'm still learning about this. Peter Singer speaks about it a lot in terms of effective altruism. And he talks a lot about the most good people can do, and that if we take more than we need, then we are still taking more than is available. So it's about redistributing wealth. So I have a struggle sometimes with thinking about, so I have got the capacity to take, say, $90 million or $90 billion or $90 million or whatever the numbers are. It's way more than I need. And so then I get the power of redistributing it. I think the root causes need to be adjusted, in the sense that that's not, to me, an ideal place to aim for, that I would have so much more wealth than is necessary for me. I'd rather potentially work on the root causes in the systems that cause a place where, so for me, 50% of my business model is pro bono or incredibly low priced, and the other 50% is at a reasonable price. And then there's a part of my charge that is high. There's a high end price ticket. Depends on what you're doing, and it depends on what people can afford also. And so I think there's different ways of being able to distribute wealth, and there's a lot of ways about being able to distribute vision and being able to connect with people in different ways, that you still get that reach and that change without taking more than you need. And I think if everybody could actually not take more than they need, then there would be enough for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. It's like there's enough food to feed everybody on the planet, yet we have people who are starving. There's enough water to, but people are still thirsty. And please understand, my 90 million, I'm not saying
I get that.
It's just like I'm saying, if I had $1 from every single person, I'd be okay. That's where money.
Like a little bit, a long way and in a broad way. Absolutely.
Yeah, like I don't have to set a goal to make $90 million and da, da, da,
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
And I love your point about that. Like that's why I'm an ambassador, a mentor, and all these things. That I'm a mentor for 3 different organizations. That's all pro bono as well. Like I love, it's my ability to support those who would not normally have access to.
Absolutely.
And how can I still contribute? And thanks to the people who do support our organization, that allows me to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And I love that. Like, where people can, they pay well, they pay well. Where people can't, they don't. And we still serve. The vision. We still serve the exchange. And I think that's where I'm practicing. And I don't know. It doesn't always serve me financially, and sometimes it really serves me. But it certainly serves my need for being useful, and it serves my ability to feel like I am a good human that can impact others in a really in decent way. I live well and I live with choice, and I think, what else is there? And if we can provide, see, this is where I think we provide the ability for people to think that way and not get stuck in a system that is causing them to still be processed so much. And there's a lot more collaboration of choice and responsibility, then we won't restrict ourselves into some, efficiency driven process where the one way is the only way. And, we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, this gets back to that whole humanity and human thing. For us, like our definition of leadership, which I've already shared, was about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. What that says is I care about you as a human being first and employee second. Yeah. So the first metric or the first measure should be humanity, the human. It's quite funny. So they have, the typical leadership or management speak. Let's call it management. It's not really leadership. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. And then I put, but people are humanity. We forget the humanity metrics all the time, right? So we, once again, the what we measure, and that's what I always see people. Revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. And but people are humanity. What's your humanity?
Nice addition. Well, I thought that was what was wrong with Simon Sinek's model of the why. Why, what, how. And I'm like, where's the who bit? Like I always do a little bubble on the edge and go, who?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, that's don't get me started on that.
That's a second conversation.
That's true. That as well. And I think so. This is really cool, and I love the concept what you're sharing. Is like you can take what you need, but you don't need to take everything, right? And what then it's, but some people go, well, I'm taking all that so I can give. So how do you address that when people are like, oh no, I'm taking all that so I can give back to humanity. So I'm going to take as much as I can, so I can give more. I'm a conduit for giving.
Yeah, I struggle with this one, but what I think at this point, because it could change, is that that's back to power. So the power rests in a person's hand who has access to that ability to do that. The book came from a place where I went to live in a slum and in orphanage in Africa. It was the first time I ever really truly understood. I had a massively terrible childhood. I was homeless. I was in foster care. It's not as if I have not understood what it was like to have an incredibly unsafe environment. But when I went to this place, this slum, and saw this type of poverty where there's no hospitals, no water, no police, there's no food, people are selling themselves, selling their children, and it is absolute disease-ridden squalor. I realized what a government was actually for. And when a government completely abandons a nation of 4.4 million people in my surroundings, it is an extreme wake-up call as to what systems can actually do. And so what I fear, and that kind of corruption comes from greed, and I think greed is a root issue here. And when I think about that, and I think about the beauty of going, I'm white, I'm resourced, I'm educated, I have privilege, I've earned privilege, I have power, I am more likely to be listened to than a lot of other people. And if I then take a lot and then redistribute it, that's still within my power. And what I would like to see happen is to equalize, or at least to spread, because it's not about being equal, but it's about providing access of power to everyone so that we don't have to redistribute in that way. People can have access to their own way of being and their own choices. And the thing that stops it is the way the systems are set up, and also mental health issues. And so there's people who cannot because they are mentally unable to, or physically unable to. But the majority of the issue with the power imbalance is that the people in power do not give access to others, and they take more than they should.
Yeah, well, so, and I think it's interesting because I hear the word access, which is really cool. And so we're making it available. But is there some sense of ownership on the individual to do the accessing?
Absolutely.
Like equality is like making, so there's a difference between equal, everyone gets the same. Equality is making sure everything.
Yeah. So,
and then access. Yeah.
Yeah. So I set up a charity in this place, and that I'm talking about, and there are 25 women so far going through a program who they get a certain amount of money per month. It's a very small amount of money. And then their job is to problem solve together and to become a sort of brains trust on how to collaborate with one another, and then to build businesses. So each of them have a business. They sell charcoal, they sell potatoes, they sell secondhand jackets, avocados, and each of them have now got a business that they have grown. So we gave them access to this funding, but we did it in a way that was quite difficult for them. They didn't just get it and then they couldn't just take it and use it in squalor and then basically get rid of the money and they'd start again. We've made it so that they were very self-sufficient in the way that they grew what they had in terms of access. And I think when people are in desperate times, and when people are also in a place where they want to have more than what they have, then they will, with the right environment and right container, they will take that access and they will make what they can from it. The problem that we have is that I think we have standards, not me and you, but we, the royal we, have standards that we think other people should access in a certain way for a certain reason and build a certain thing. I'm like, this one lady said to me, she goes, Suzanne, I had one bag of charcoal and now I have two. And I was like, my God, that must be so incredibly empowering when she had nothing before. And so this is where I think priorities and equitable standards, so people can, for what they need to have, is important. And then if we provide access, people will then come to the party in a way that is right for them. And we should stop dictating what they need to do with their access. But we also need to provide a container and an ability for people to get to that point. And then, because they might not have had access before, is help them understand how they can use that access. And this is where I think if we stop taking and then just redistributing, we are then engaging more fairness and more ability for people to choose their own way rather than it just being processed and given to them or for them.
Wow. So I'm going to challenge you now. How do we bring that back to this whole thing about our culture is really invincible? How can we take all that and bring it back to leaders and organizations who are watching this now? How do we bring that back around to that?
So it's in your question in the LinkedIn post, which I thought was beautiful. So how do we build an invincible culture without losing the softness? So I believe this is about, we do all of these things in tandem. And so invincible with the intent that you say it to be strong, it's to be connected, it's to be marching forward in a collective way with choice and responsibility, and still using that humanity that we have. I genuinely think it's about reprioritizing what we value. And luckily there are many organizations doing this now. A lot of businesses who were once deemed a not-for-profit or a social impact or a social enterprise, they're operating for purpose, but with the mentality of the social enterprise. And I think that's a really important thing. I also think business models like mutuals, where the money comes back in, is really important. And then also our own internal individual desires need to be reined in, and then I believe we need to be more compassionate and more giving, so that we don't just take more than we need. And I think if you put all those things together, invincible in its form that you believe is important will absolutely be there.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that, bringing that back around. You took it exactly where I expected you to take it, which is beautiful. I think it's I'm just feeling very inspired at the moment. So I'm just my emotions are sitting in there after that, because this is what I wish for the world. This is what I wish for organizations to bring this back. I when I first started out creating Circle Leadership, even before that, when I first tagged myself as the prophet for purpose, right? Is like I just knew purpose was the thing, and I could see, and I wrote a lot of stuff about this probably back in 2015, 14, around the fact that I think going forward into the future, what we'll see is that, we've gone from profit-driven organizations and we have not-for-profits, and there'll be this blend of where it's not even profit or, and that's where I like, profit for purpose. Like this is where I created all what my concept of a model business, rather than just having a business model. That a business model is designed to make money and maybe do some good with that money and then repeat. Whereas a model business says, let's just do good first, make money, and then do even more good with that money and repeat that. It's a subtle shift, but I could see, and actually one of my things I wrote, which I got a little crap for because it was more perceivably gimmicky, but can you imagine a future, Suzanne, where we don't have profit or loss statements, where we have purpose or lost statements.
Ooh, let me think about that. Purpose or lost?
Yeah.
What's the lost bit? What would that
Well,
be?
we're just lost. We have no reason why we're here other than to make money. Like that's
No,
to me is hollow. It's
gotcha.
we have no sense of meaning to like making money is not. And I always say to people, you want like I can solve this problem really quickly. You want to make lots of money as a business. Here's how you do it. Simplify. Solve lots of problems for lots of people. You want to make gobloads of money? Great. Solve lots of big problems for lots of people. That's it. So that's how you do it. Now let's focus on what the impact we can have on the world and on humanity and how we can create access for a whole bunch of human beings to contribute to that cause, that calling, and give them opportunities to be a part of that, if that's what they choose to be a part of. And then let's go do some epic shit in the world.
Yeah. And
For the world.
yeah, and just in it, like if we just bring it back to the simplicity of it, like we were not born thinking, oh my God, I've got to pay tax and I want to make this much money and I want to do these things, like the evolution of by the time we're born is very much about it's relational. It's about how I feel. It's about how I'm connected and what I contribute to. Hence your beginning statement about we're born to work as well. But yeah, we've just over intellectualized and got self-obsessed, I think. And I love the fact that your inspiration and your emotion really obviously comes from a place where you want people to live a really incredible life and in a way that is comfortable. And it's okay. The universe doesn't want us to live in squalor. If the universe had an opinion, I'm sure it would say, I would like you all to be okay. And so if you're going to represent the universe right now, which I think would be lovely, then I think the work you're doing is wonderful, Dave. Thank you. Like, it's really beautiful.
Thank you. And let's say I'm going to be selfish here, a little bit selfishly here. I'm going to take because this was actually I wanted to have this live stream with you because I knew how I would feel after having a conversation with you more than just a dialogue. I think there's a big difference between a dialogue on LinkedIn and a conversation, a deep, rich conversation, because I've missed those conversations. Though we've had few of them, each one of them has always been very impassioned, and I've missed that with you. And so selfishly, it was like, let's get online, let's get online.
No, okay, and I think you can call me. We can do it as well.
I know.
So like, please do call.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that to me, and hopefully the people who've been watching this and people who watch it after the fact. And thank you for your work you're doing in this world. For me, like people ask me often, like, why are you always promoting all these other people? And I said, well, you know what? It's and I've shared this before. It's my simple candle theories, right? So a candle loses nothing from lighting another. And there's a whole bunch of other people out there, and that are not spreading the right message, I believe, or it might have been the message at the time, but I don't believe it's relevant in today's world or whatever it is. But me blowing out their candles or you blowing out their candles does not serve them. But if we light all the candles we can, and our light shines so bright we can't see that candle anymore, that's what we do. So thank you for continuing to keep my candle alight and for the candles that you light with the work that you're doing in this world. And I just think if we can all just keep going around and lighting more of those candles, we can have that impact that we're talking about.
Oh, Dave, thank you. I feel very, very honoured, and I really appreciate your kind words. And it's only going to do good things, isn't it? When both of us are going to get off this call, the person we see next is going to get that energy from us, and then it's going to move on. It's going to move into the atmosphere. So how can it not be anything but wonderful?
Yeah, absolutely. If people want to learn more about you, get hold of you, find out more about the epic work you're doing in this world, Suzanne, just quick, where can they get hold of you?
SuzanneWaldron.com. That'll do it.
Or
LinkedIn. I mean, I do like my LinkedIn. Quite like it.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're on LinkedIn now. That wasn't a plug. I forgot where I was or what I was doing just for a second because I was so in it with you. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll just put it. Well, this is live. This is live across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So we're all over the place with this.
Wonderful.
I've even live streamed this in the Global Company Culture Association into their pages as well. So anyone wants to talk about, our culture is really invincible, please embrace some of the philosophies and things that Suzanne has shared with us today. I think, we need to move into this place where we're, that whole concept of access, I think, is critical. And humanity. Imagine if we could bring some more humanity in the workplace. I think it's fascinating. I'll leave with this, that the more technology we've been exposed to over the last short period of time has actually created a greater sense of need or want for humanity in the workplace, or exposed the fact that we have this. It's just, I just see a lot of it now where, we're starting to understand the importance of people. As the rise of technology happens, we're seeing the importance of people.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, we could have a whole conversation on that too. Suzanne, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your insights, and for the work you're doing. It was truly a pleasure to have you as one of the most amazing human beings that I hold dearly in my life. Although we don't spend time together, but when we do, it's always epic. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, thanks very much. Replay will be available on all the platforms where you've watched it if you'd like to watch it again, or there's parts of it. And please make sure you reach out and connect with Suzanne on LinkedIn, because that's your favorite place.
It's my place. I like that place.